Jungkook was mid-conversation with one of his top-tier clients when something sharp and sudden cut through the music and laughter. A splash. He froze. That wasn't normal. Without a word, Jungkook pushed past the cord and rushed toward the pool. A strange cold ran up his spine. As he neared the edge, his eyes scanned the water, and then he saw it, a body, sinking, arms limp, motionless. No hesitation, no thought, Jungkook ripped off his jacket and dove in. The cold water beat into his skin, but all he could see was her, Wyan. Her body floated weightlessly, her eyes closed, her lips pale. He gripped her tightly and pulled her upward, fighting the weight of her soaked dress and the panic seizing his chest. They broke the surface, gasping. People had already gathered around, gasping, pointing. Jungkook pulled her onto the ground and immediately started CPR. Her stomach was bloated. She had swallowed too much water. He pressed hard into her abdomen, forcing the water out, then leaned in, giving her breath. "Jungkook, come on," he whispered through clenched teeth. "Don't do this, don't you dare." A cock, then another. One sputtered, water gushing from her mouth, her fragile body shaking as her lungs struggled to breathe again. Her eyes fluttered open slowly, everything blurry, then tears. She began to cry silently, helplessly. Her lips trembled, but not a sound escaped. Her arms wrapped around herself in shivers. Jungkook exhaled in sheer relief, but his words came out sharp, too sharp. "Jungkook, how could you be so careless?" he snapped. "You don't even know how to swim. What are you doing near the pool?" Why didn't answer. She could not. She just looked at him, eyes wide, wet and trembling. Something in her gaze, vulnerability, terror, pain, shut him up completely. His anger dissolved like mist. Then she reached out and grabbed his hand tightly. That one small action, so desperate, so fragile, made something twist painfully in Jungkook's chest. His heart was pounding in a way he could not explain. Why does this feel different? He helped her gently, realizing she could not stand on her own. Then his eyes flickered down. Her soaked dress clung to her like second skin. Her undergarments were faintly visible through the fabric. Jungkook didn't even think. He pulled off his tuxedo jacket and carefully draped it over her shoulders. "Jungkook, come on," he said quietly. Some female staff members rushed in, taking Wyan aside to help her change and warm up. But Jungkook wasn't done. Something about this didn't feel like an accident, and he wanted answer. He turned to Tae. "Jungkook, there are security cameras out here, right?" They nodded. "Always." Jungkook, "Good. Let's go." His voice was cold still now. They stormed into the security control room. It didn't take long. Footage revealed everything. Bora, the message, the shock, the plan. Jungkook's jaw clenched, his veins plugged. They watched silently, then muttered, I told you, she really can't speak." Jungkook didn't reply. He could not. His breath caught for a moment as the full weight of it hit him. He had dubbed Wyan harshly, bitterly, but now he had nearly lost her, and she hadn't even been able to cry for help. His hands curled into fist. "Jungkook, now I believe it," he murmured. "She is mute completely." They pushed forward. They. "But why would Bora?" "Jungkook, we will find out." He turned sharply. "Jungkook, bring her to the special room." They gave a note. On it. Both of them existed with purposes. There would be no mercy tonight. A dim, windowless room, only a single overhead bulb flickered above, casting a stark circle of light that barely touched the darkness around it. In the middle of that light sat a girl, Bora. Her hands and feet were bound tightly to the chair, only her mouth remained free. She shifted uncomfortably, fear dripping down her spine like ice. The door cracked open, heavy footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. A shadow entered the light. Bora's heart jumped. Jimin, she straightened slightly, forcing a stumbling voice. Bora, I don't know what happened, she whispered. I just saw her being pulled from the water. Jimmy's eyes narrowed. The calmness in his voice felt colder than the room itself. Jimin, who pushed wine into the pool? Bora, I told you I don't know, she insisted. She must have slept. Maybe it looked different on camera. But clicked. Jimin pulled a pistol from his pocket, casually spinning it in his hand. Bora flinched, her voice cracked. Bora, I swear I didn't mean any harm. Footsteps again slower, heavier, colder. The door opened once more, and this time Jungkook stepped inside. But this wasn't the Jungkook Bora once giggled over from afar. This wasn't the man she tried to charm with her flirtatious smiles. This was someone else, someone darker, someone terrifying. His face was unreadable, his sweet sharp, his eyes lethal. Jungkook's voice was slow, venomous. Jungkook, you want to talk or do we make you talk? He reached out and took the pistol from Jimin's hand, inspecting it slowly. Bora's heart pounded. This wasn't a game anymore. Bora, she stammered. I did it, okay, I admit it. Her voice cracked under pressure. I was jealous. Everyone in the office, everyone only talked about her, about Wyan, how talented she was, how kind, how perfect. Bora, I only wanted to scare her, just to knock her off that pedestal a little. I didn't know, she choked. I didn't know she could not swim. Jimmy stood silently in the background, arms crossed. But Jungkook's jaw clenched. His grip on the pistol tightened, then bang. The shot rang out, a scream tore through the air. The bullet ripped through Bora's hand, blood spattering across her lap as she wailed in agony. Writhing in the chair, she sobbed, Bora, please, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Jungkook leaned in, his voice a razor across her trembling skin. Jungkook, you won't be coming back to the office, and if you ever lay a hand on mine again. His eyes narrowed. I won't aim for your hand next time. He dropped the gun back into Jimin's holster and stormed out of the room, his footsteps sharp and merciless. Jimin gave Bora one last cold glance, then turned and followed him out the door. The room fell into silence, save for Bora's sobs, alone, broken, and bleeding in the dark. Night had fallen. A heavy stillness settled over the city, and within it, a room cloaked in silence. Jungkook lay on his bed, one arm thrown over his forehead, eyes staring at the ceiling, but not seeing it. His mind was loud, too loud. The events of the party kept playing on loop in his head, every second, every glance, every gasp for breath. He hadn't expected something like that, not in his own party, not under his watch. He had planned a celebration victory, a night of power and pride. Instead, he had watched someone nearly die right before his eyes, not just someone, Wyan. He has killed many people in his life. He has seen many people die before his eyes. But why does this feeling only come for her? He closed his eyes tighter, trying to block out the image, her body limp, her face blue, her lips silent. When he had jumped into the pool, something inside him had snapped. Not panic, not logic, something deeper, something raw, fear, real fear. He didn't even know he was capable of it. Not until he saw her still body in his arms, giving her CPR, seeing her eyes flutter open. The relief that flooded him was terrifying. Why did it matter so much? Wyan, who had always been a mystery, Wyan, whose silence somehow spoke more than anyone else's voice, Wyan, who had no voice at all, and yet tonight her eyes had screamed. He remembered them, the way they clung to his, pleading, terrified, thankful. A kind of fragile trust was there, and something else too, something unnamed. Jungkook let out a long, shaky breath. This wasn't him. He didn't lose focus. He didn't let emotions mess with his mind. And yet tonight, he had felt something he could not explain, something he hadn't felt in a very, very long time. A strange sense of protectiveness, a strange kind of connection. He shifted slightly on the bed, pulling the covers up to his chest. Jungkook, who are you, Ryan? He whispered into the dark. No answer came. Only the soft rhythm of the city beyond the window and the faint pulse of a heart that, for the first time in years, didn't feel like stone. His eyes fluttered shut, and slowly he drifted into sleep. The atmosphere in the office was heavy since morning. Not a single voice had dared to raise above a whisper. The air was thick with uneasy, and the memory of the last night's party hung like smoke. No one could escape. What had happened was too intense, too close to something dangerous. Everyone knew one thing. If Jungkook heard anyone speaking about it, their day at the company might be numbered. So silence, utter silence. Inside Jungkook's office, Jungkook sat back in his chair, silent, his fingers stapled beneath his chin. His expression was unreadable, a storm brewing behind calm eyes. V and Jimin sat across from him, equally quiet, waiting for him to speak. Finally, Jungkook broke the silence. Jungkook, the girl, she really can't speak. Jimin gave a quiet note. Jimin, I told you, didn't I? She is mute. She physically can't speak. Jungkook's gaze remained fixed ahead, but something flickered in his eyes. Jungkook, then why? He asked. Why would a girl like her, who clearly comes from a life of luxury, end up in my company? What is she doing here, working like this, leaving behind the comfort and choosing this? There was a pause, then V spoke softly. V, maybe she is a victim, maybe your father behind it. Before Jungkook could respond, a knock echoed through the room. Once, twice, Jungkook frowned. Jungkook, who is it? No answer. Another knock. Jungkook, come in. He snapped, irritated. The door cracked open, and then there she was, Ryan. She stood trembling in the doorway, her skin pale, hands shaking, beads of sweat on her forehead. She stepped in slowly, lifted her hand, and began signing. Her movements were rushed, panicked. She was trying to say something important, urgent. But Jungkook didn't understand. To him, her gesture was meaningless, just more silence. Jungkook, what is she saying? He asked, frustrated. Just then, V stood up. V, I'm sorry, my mom's really sick. I have to leave right now. Jungkook blinked, confused. Jungkook, now? Why so suddenly? Why didn't you tell me before they? V looked at him, a small smile curving his lips. V, why are you staring at me like that? You forgot? I know sign languages. All those international deals, I had to learn it. And with that, he walked to Ryan, glanced at her frantic hands, and understood immediately. Jungkook stared at him in disbelief. He had forgotten completely. V was trained in everything. He had always been one step ahead, and now it was Ryan who needed someone to understand. He muttered, Jungkook, all right, go. Why didn't wait a second longer? She turned and ran from the room. The door banged behind her, and just a bit later, Jungkook shot up from his chair. Jungkook, let's go now. We need to follow her. No one asked questions. The three of them, Jungkook, Jimin, and V, rushed out of the room, chasing the trail of the girl who could not speak but was finally ready to say everything. The tires screeched. Jungkook's car chased after the slack black vehicles disappearing down the winding road. One had gotten into it moments ago, and now all three, Jungkook, Jimin, and V, were speeding behind, following a shadow that always managed to slip, always at the last turn. Jungkook, this is exactly what I said would happen, he hissed through clenched teeth. The damn car vanishes every time. Jimin slapped a fist on the dashboard. Jimin, we have to get out. We can't lose her again. Without another word, the three of them jumped out of their car. Eyes sharp, they searched the surrounding area and then Jungkook froze. His gaze fell upon something near the steps of a quiet, unassuming house, a pair of delicate shoes, Wine's shoes. Jungkook, she's here, he whispered almost to himself. These are hers. They all approached the door, but it was locked. Jimin dug into his pocket, smirking awkwardly. Jimin, I actually have a key that works on most locks. Jungkook's head snapped toward him. Jungkook, you what? Why didn't you say that earlier? Open it now. Within seconds, the door cracked open, revealing a strangely empty, airy interior. Shadows clung to the walls, dust floated through the air like suspended silence. They crept in. Then a light. Down the hall, a faint glow flickered beneath a door. They moved toward it, slow, cautious, voice urging, a woman's voice shaking with emotion, and a man's deep familiar. Jungkook's breath caught in his throat. Mr. Jeon, his father. Oh man, I don't want my daughter marrying a monster like you. The woman's voice trembled. Not while I am still alive. Mr. Jeon, you are only alive because your daughter begged for it. Jeon replied coldly. Don't act like I owe you anything. If not for her tears, you would be buried already. Once mother, I won't let you ruin her life. Mr. Jeon, you don't get to decide that anymore. Jeon's voice turned dark, final. I have seen hundreds of women in my life, but Wyan, she's different. She's the one. I don't care if the world collapses. I will marry her. Once mother, please. Her voice cracked, defeated. Mr. Jeon, get everything ready, he ordered. The wedding's in 2 days. I'm done waiting. Footsteps echoed. The three of them slipped into the shadows as Mr. Jeon stepped out of the room and walked past them, unaware of the ice burning into his back. They peeked into the room inside. One sat beside a wheelchair. Her mother was hunched forward, face buried in her hands, weeping. One's head rested gently on her mother's arm, and her own face was soaked in tears, a silent, fragile storm. None of the three men said a word. They could not. What they had seen left a heaviness pressing against their chest. They returned home quietly. Later, in Jungkook's room, Jungkook lay motionless, staring at the ceiling. Flashback. The sun filtered gently through the leaves, casting golden patches on the soft grass. The air was crisp and full of laughter. A younger Jungkook, barely 5 years old, ran across the open park field, arms wide like he was trying to hug the wind. Jungkook's mom, Jungkook, his mother called out laughingly. Not so fast, you will fall and hurt yourself, baby. But the little boy didn't listen. His giggle echoed through the park, full of freedom and joy. He had waited so long for a day like this, just the three of them. His father chuckled, watching his son run like the happiest boy on earth. Jungkook's dad, let him run, he said to his wife. It's been so long since we have had a quiet open place like this, and then suddenly it happened. A stumble, a cry. Jungkook fell hard onto the ground, scraping his knee. Blood trickled down his little leg. Jungkook, both parents shouted in unison and rushed to him. His mother dropped to her knees, pulling him into his arms, while his father gently examined the wound. With quick hands, they wrapped the injury in a bandage they had in their bags. Tears welled up in Jungkook's eyes, not so much pain, but from shock. His father smiled and lifted him into his arms. "Jungkook's dad today," he said proudly. "My son will tour the world in my arms." Jungkook wiped his tears and grinned. "Jungkook, love you, Dad." His mother placed a hand on her chest in mock offense. "Jungkook's mom's only your dad. What about me?" Jungkook laughed with that innocent sparkle only a child can have. "Jungkook, love you too, mama. Love you lots." His father adjusted Jungkook in one arm and reached out to take his wife's hand with the other. Their eyes met, a smile exchanged without words, just love, just warmth, just family. The three of them walked through the park, hearts full, the world quiet around them. For a little while, nothing else mattered. They were just a family, spending time together, and it would become a memory that Jungkook would carry with him for the rest of his life. Flashback end. His mind wasn't in the room, it was swimming in old memories, days with his mother, the sound of her laugh, the warmth of her touch, the innocence he once knew, now long gone. Then Wine's face appeared in his thoughts, that moment at the party. Her hand in his, her eyes silent, terrified, full of unspoken pain. Something inside him shifted, something deep and uncontrollable. Without thinking, he reached for his phone, dialed a number he hadn't touched in years. The line clicked. "Jungkook, get everything ready," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "The wedding is going to be a wire, and the day after tomorrow, I'm setting it all on fire."